Hello, John aka Chicken Fillets here. Now, we are just under a week away from the release of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and this got me thinking about Final Fantasy VII as a whole and my journey towards the unknown to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So what I wanted to do today is just to talk to you about my journey with Final Fantasy VII from the beginning up until now. But before we get into that, if you like what you're hearing and seeing on this channel, well, please help me grow it by liking, sharing and subscribing. And what I want to know is as well as what are your thoughts on Final Fantasy VII and what was your journey with it? Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, let's get on with my beginning of the journey. Final Fantasy VII was originally released on the PlayStation for me back in 1997. Now I remember this game being advertised on TV and seeing all the adverts of the rocket flying up into the sky, seeing Midgar as a whole. I really thought this was utterly amazing. Now up until this point we had a PlayStation that we shared with my parents and we had the likes of Tekken and Crash Bandicoot, etc. But these adverts purely got through to my dad because he bought Final Fantasy VII, and I'm pretty sure he only played it once because once me and my little brother got our hands on it, we were sucked into this universe. What grabbed me was the story and these characters and the presentation of this game, because up until this point I'd never played a RPG or a JRPG before. I'd only been used to the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog on the Mega Drive, which I was brought up with, and other platforming games, and like I said before, Tekken, which was on the PlayStation 1. I always remember booting up the game and seeing the intro scene and thinking, wow, this is utterly amazing, and then having Cloud Strife jump off the train and following Barret and going straight into that first turn-based battle. From that point I knew this game was special and I stuck out with it. Well, there was some points I did get stuck with it, but you know, I was very young at that time. Following Cloud Strife and his companions across the world of Gaia, trying to find Sephiroth to take him out of the picture, this was something that just always stood the test of time with me, and all the events in between, whether that was the likes of going to Junon and seeing the Rufus Shinra welcoming ceremony, insert that music here, because that's one of the best pieces of music in Final Fantasy VII, going to Costa del Sol, going to the likes of the Gold Saucer, all the mini games which are involved. You know, there was games within a game. And then there's the music which comes along with Final Fantasy VII. That soundtrack has always stuck with me, whether it's from the fanfare, whether it's the battle music, whether it's my favourite piece, like I said before, the Rufus Shinra welcoming ceremony. One of the biggest points for me with Final Fantasy VII was coming out of Midgar for the first time and seeing this world map in front of me. My breath was taken away because I never experienced this with a game before, and it made me really think what games could actually be, you know, and this experience has always stuck with me. It's one of the most memorable moments I have with my video game life. It's weird saying that, is it?
Like I give a shit.
It's a game which I have gone back to so many times now. I don't play it on the PlayStation 1 that often anymore. I always play it on the likes of my PlayStation Vita, having it on the go and being able to revisit this world when I want, in the palm of my hands, wherever I want. This has just been the utter dream for me. So you can imagine years later, growing up a wee bit after playing Final Fantasy VII for so long, and then the likes of Advent Children and Dirge of Cerberus suddenly appear, because for me I didn't really keep an eye on what was happening in the world of gaming, etc. And then going into a local Asda up with us and finding Final Fantasy VII Advent Children on the DVD shelf and going, what? There's a Final Fantasy VII movie? I remember going up there with my mom and just being like, oh, I need this film, I need it, it's Final Fantasy VII. And like, thankfully my mom actually let us get the DVD, and I have watched that DVD so many times. And then Dirge of Cerberus came along, which again, I was getting a sequel, we'll use that, a sequel to Final Fantasy VII, playing as one of the fan favourites of the game, Vincent Valentine. And yes, I know it turned into basically a third-person shooter, but this was still the world of Final Fantasy VII. This was something that I just could not believe what was happening, and I still have Dirge of Cerberus up there on my shelf. I still really like that game.
Disgusting!
My gaming journey throughout my life, well, once I got older, I started becoming more of a casual gamer where I played the likes of Tony Hawk's, Grand Theft Auto and WWE games. You know, I didn't really go out with the realms. I would revisit Final Fantasy VII from time to time, but not as much as I really should have, because, you know, still one of my favourite games of all time back then. But once I started getting back into JRPGs, something special happened back in 2015. Roll the footage.
Long ago, we looked upon a foreboding sky. The memory of the star that threatened all burns eternal in our hearts. In its wake came an age of silence. Yet with each fond remembrance, we knew those encountered were not forgotten. That someday we would see them again. Perhaps it was no more than wishful thinking. But after the long calm, there are now the beginnings of a stir. The reunion at hand may bring joy, it may bring fear, but let us embrace whatever it brings. For they are coming back. At last, the promise has been made.
So a dream finally came true for myself and many other gamers around the world. We got a glimpse that Final Fantasy VII Remake was happening. The remake that we'd all been clamouring for. Yes, when we got the final product, it wasn't what everyone expected. It was one of my favourite parts of Final Fantasy VII. I love the Midgar area, and they turned a little 4-hour, 5-hour section of the game into a full 30 to 40 hour game. And I've replayed this game so many times, and the journey getting to that point was just utterly outstanding. I still remember so fondly of that trailer coming out for E3 when it got announced. I remember it was about 7 o'clock in the morning and I was getting ready for work. My wife was getting ready for work as well, and I remember watching it on my phone and going, yes! And she was like, what are you on about, mate? Come on, grow up. Final Fantasy VII Remake did something as well that I didn't think was possible, and it made me care for characters which I didn't really have too much care for in the original Final Fantasy VII, because they expanded on the characters, especially with voice acting and really great voice casts with this as well. So the likes of Avalanche members, Jesse, Wedge, Biggs, etc., they became characters that you fell in love with. Johnny as well, he was just a minor NPC in this game, and you know what, he was fully fleshed out and you really enjoyed his character. You really got to love these characters even more, and that is something which I feel is special with Final Fantasy VII Remake, because it made me fall in love with the game even more. Then we got Final Fantasy VII Intermission, where we got basically new story beats where we got to play as Yuffie, and this was exciting for me because it brought something new to the table which actually really made sense. It fitted within the Final Fantasy VII lore, and I just loved every second of it, and they improved the gameplay as well with it, which you can see has been used for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth using the synergy abilities.
Come and get it!
Post-edit Phillips here, and I forgot to talk about Crisis Core when originally filming this video, so here we are talking about why Crisis Core is an important part of my Final Fantasy VII journey. Now, first of all, the PSP version of the game, well, this is really important in my JRPG journey overall. Because if it wasn't for this game, I wouldn't have got back into JRPGs fully, and I wouldn't have tried different JRPGs overall. Because it broke down this wall I built up in my head that all JRPGs needed to be turn-based or they needed to have a world map, etc. I got past this because of this game. Now, Zack Fair is an amazing character in Final Fantasy VII, and seeing a fully explained prequel and his story brought to us on the PSP was just amazing, and it was such a game-changing experience for me. Now moving forward, after Final Fantasy VII Remake was released, further down the line we got a true remaster or remake, however you want to see it, of Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion. This is the essential and best way to play Crisis Core. Now the story is exactly the same as its PSP counterpart, however everything else has had a massive overhaul, whether it's the graphics, whether it's the combat system, which I think is just the best between the two, and they've also streamlined it so that they have the same voice cast as the remake. Zack Fair's character really grew on me during my time with him in Crisis Core. And even that you know what's going to happen at the end of this game, if you know Final Fantasy VII's lore, well, it still always hits hard no matter how many times you've played this. Anyway, back to the recording, Phillits.
Me? Gungaga.
And now, as of the time of recording, we are just under a week away from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The critical acclaim has come out, all the reviews have come out, and we are seeing 10 out of 10s everywhere. I've seen some fantastic reviews by content creator friends on YouTube, and it is something that I'm so hyped for. I will definitely be on this game in day one. I have played the demos, I've played the Nibelheim incident, I have played the Junon area, and I've just absolutely blown away by this. I do not fear any of the changes that may come from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation 1, the original OG version, will always be there if I want to revisit it. It's another way to experience this world, another way to experience these characters. It's another way to listen to the soundtrack, which is embedded in there and will always be in there for the rest of my life. The story of Cloud, Avalanche, the likes of Barret, Tifa, that story will always be with me. And this is why Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I cannot wait to take part in this journey once again, and there will be new story beats which I'm really excited to experience for the first time. And it really makes me feel like I will have that same epiphany that I had when leaving Midgar for the first time. Because when I left Midgar for the first time in the original Final Fantasy VII, that blew my mind. Now revisiting this new world, this unknown journey that we're going to have, I think this is going to have the same effect as I did with the original. But what I want to know is, are you hyped for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? What was your journey towards this game? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, if you like what you're hearing and seeing on this channel, well, please help me grow it by liking, sharing and subscribing. And if you want to be kept up to date with everything Chicken Fillets, well, hit that notification bell. This has been John, aka Chicken Fillets, and until next time, tatty bye.
Hold the giant ship that donated a happy title.